Hello, everyone. I want to tell you something that many people feel but few people say out loud. Something that exists beneath the surface of the busy, connected, always online world we live in. A feeling that affects hundreds of millions of people across every country, every age group, every level of wealth and success. Loneliness. Not the temporary loneliness of being alone for an afternoon, but the deeper, more persistent kind. The feeling of not being truly known by anyone. Of being surrounded by people and still feeling invisible. Of scrolling through hundreds of connections and still feeling fundamentally alone. If you have ever felt this way, you are not broken. You are not unusual. And you are absolutely not alone in feeling alone. Research from the United States Surgeon General's Office, released in 2023, described loneliness as a public health epidemic, affecting more than 50% of American adults. In Japan, the government created the world's first Ministry of Loneliness in 2021, following similar initiatives in the United Kingdom in 2018. This is not a personal problem. It is a global crisis. And here is what makes this particularly relevant to you, as an English learner. Because the solution to loneliness is connection. And English, the most widely spoken language in the world, is one of the most powerful tools for building connection across the barriers that keep people apart. By the end of this video, you will understand the real causes and costs of modern loneliness, what the neuroscience says about human connection, and how your English learning is not just a skill you are building but a bridge you are building toward people, communities, and connections that could change your life. Stay with me. Part 1. The loneliness epidemic in numbers. Let us start with what the data actually shows. Because the numbers are both striking and deeply human. According to a 2023 Gallup Global Survey of more than 140 countries, approximately 24% of adults worldwide report feeling very lonely. That is roughly 1 in 4 people. In South Korea, a survey by the Korean Institute for Health and Social Affairs found that 59% of young adults aged 19 to 34 reported significant feelings of loneliness. In the United Kingdom, a 2022 report found that 3.83 million people experience chronic loneliness, meaning they feel lonely most or all of the time. Perhaps most striking is that loneliness has been increasing fastest among young people, the generation most connected through technology. Researchers call this the loneliness paradox. The generation with more ways to connect than any in history is the loneliest generation on record. The health consequences of chronic loneliness are severe and well documented. Research by Julianne Holt-Lunstad at Brigham Young University found that loneliness increases the risk of premature death by approximately 26%. This is comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Loneliness increases the risk of heart disease by 29%. It increases the risk of stroke by 32%. And it significantly worsens outcomes for virtually every other health condition. Former U.S. Surgeon General Dr. Vivek Murthy has called loneliness one of the most significant public health challenges of our time. Not because it is rare, but because it is so common, so damaging, and so poorly understood. Part 2. Why modern life creates loneliness. To understand why loneliness is increasing in the most connected era in human history, you need to understand what human connection actually requires. Because the kind of connection social media and technology provide is fundamentally different from the kind our biology needs. Human beings evolved as profoundly social creatures. For hundreds of thousands of years, survival depended on being embedded in a small, stable community of people who knew you deeply, relied on you, and were relied upon by you. The social bonds formed in these communities were not just emotionally satisfying. They were literally the difference between life and death. Your brain still carries the neural architecture of this ancient social need. Research by John Cacioppo at the University of Chicago, one of the world's leading researchers on loneliness, shows that the brain has specific social monitoring systems that continuously assess your degree of social connection. When these systems register insufficient connection, they produce the painful signal we experience as loneliness. Just as hunger motivates you to seek food, loneliness motivates you to seek connection. It is a biological alarm system. But the connections that satisfy this deep biological need are not just any connections. They are specific kinds of connection. They require being truly known, not just followed. Being truly heard, not just seen. Being truly needed, not just liked. Social media provides exposure, visibility, and shallow interaction. But it rarely provides the depth of connection that the human social system actually requires. This is why you can have 500 followers and still feel profoundly alone. The loneliness system is not counting connections. It is measuring depth, authenticity, and genuine mutual knowing. And those things are increasingly rare in the modern world. Part 3. What loneliness does to the brain. Here is the neuroscience of loneliness that most people have never been clearly told. Because understanding it is the first step to addressing it. Cassiopo's research shows that chronic loneliness activates the brain's threat response system. The isolated brain interprets its social disconnection as a form of danger, just as the ancient brain would have interpreted separation from the tribe as a genuine survival threat. This activation produces measurable changes in brain function and chemistry. Cortisol levels in chronically lonely people are significantly elevated, producing a state of low-grade chronic stress that affects cognitive function, emotional regulation, and physical health simultaneously. Research shows that lonely people have lower quality sleep, even when they sleep the same number of hours as non-lonely people. Their sleep is less restorative, which compounds the cognitive and emotional effects of their loneliness. Perhaps most relevant for English learners, loneliness significantly impairs the prefrontal cortex functions required for social cognition. The ability to read social situations accurately, to understand other people's perspectives and emotions, to communicate effectively in emotionally nuanced contexts. Lonely people are not less capable of connection, but their brains have been altered by loneliness in ways that make connection more difficult. They become more hypervigilant to social threats, more likely to interpret neutral social signals as negative, more prone to self-protective behaviors that, paradoxically, push people away. Loneliness becomes self-reinforcing. The isolation that causes the pain also makes it harder to relieve. Understanding this cycle is important because it means that the solution is not just spending more time around people. It is building the skills and conditions that make genuine, deep connection possible. And English, for many people, is part of that solution. Part 4. Connection as a biological necessity. Here is something that reframes loneliness completely. Connection is not a luxury. It is not a nice to have. It is as biologically necessary as food and sleep. And treating it as anything less is a mistake that costs people their health, their happiness, and often their lives. Research by Matthew Lieberman at UCLA, published in his book Social, argues that the human brain's social systems are more fundamental to our nature than even our capacity for rational thought. The social brain, the neural networks dedicated to understanding and connecting with other people, is among the most metabolically expensive systems in the body. Evolution does not invest this heavily in systems that are merely nice to have. When you have high-quality social connections, your brain releases oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone, which reduces cortisol, lowers blood pressure, and produces feelings of safety and well-being. It also releases serotonin, which stabilizes mood, and endorphins, which reduce physical and emotional pain. High-quality connection is literally medicine. It is your body's own pharmacy, available at no cost. Research from the Harvard Study of Adult Development, one of the longest-running studies of human well-being in history, tracked 724 men over 80 years. The single strongest predictor of health, happiness, and longevity in old age was not wealth, not intelligence, not professional achievement. It was the quality of their close relationships. Not the number. The quality. This finding, replicated across many other studies, points to something profound. The most important investment you can make in your well-being is in the depth and quality of your connections with other people. And any tool that expands your capacity to build those connections, including English, is an investment in the most important asset you have. Part 5. English as a bridge across loneliness. Here is where everything comes together for you as an English learner. English is not just a skill for your career or your travel plans. It is a bridge. A bridge that can connect you to people, communities, ideas, and experiences that exist beyond the boundaries of your native language and culture. Consider what becomes possible when you can communicate in English. You can connect with approximately 1.5 billion people around the world who share this language. You can participate in global communities around your interests, whether that is science, art, music, business, philosophy, or anything else. You can access an enormous world of content, ideas, and perspectives that are not available in translation or that lose something essential in translation. Research on multilingual individuals shows consistently that people who speak more than one language report having richer, more diverse social networks. They report feeling more connected to the world, more able to understand people different from themselves, more capable of the kind of perspective-taking that genuine human connection requires. This is because language is not just a communication tool. Language is a cultural and emotional key. When you learn English, you are not just acquiring a new code. You are gaining access to the emotional and cultural world that the language carries. The humor, the subtlety, the specific ways of seeing and describing human experience that are unique to English-speaking thought. And crucially, when you speak in English with someone whose native language is also not English, something remarkable happens. You are both operating in a shared space of imperfection and effort. You are both navigating a language that is not fully yours. And that shared vulnerability, that mutual reaching across linguistic distance, creates a specific kind of intimacy. A bond formed in the shared courage of communication. Part 6. The courage to connect. Here is the hard truth about loneliness and connection that most advice about loneliness leaves out. Genuine connection requires vulnerability. It requires showing up as you actually are, with all your imperfections, uncertainties, and half-formed thoughts. And vulnerability, for most people, feels genuinely frightening. Research by Brené Brown at the University of Houston shows that vulnerability, the willingness to be seen and known without guarantees, is the foundation of all genuine human connection. You cannot have connection without vulnerability. You cannot be truly known without allowing yourself to be truly seen. For English learners, this is both a challenge and an extraordinary opportunity. Because learning and using English is inherently vulnerable. Every time you speak in English, you are exposing yourself to judgment. You are showing your imperfection. You are allowing another person to see you in the process of learning. That vulnerability, rather than being something to protect yourself from, is the very thing that makes genuine connection possible. The person who speaks imperfect English openly and without apology is practicing exactly the kind of vulnerability that builds deep human connection. They are saying, "This is me, in the middle of becoming, and I trust you enough to let you see it." Research shows that people consistently rate authentic, vulnerable communicators as more trustworthy, more likable, and more worth knowing than polished, performative ones. Your imperfect English, spoken with genuine presence and openness, is one of the most powerful tools for genuine connection you possess. Part 7. Building connection through English. Let me give you specific, practical ways to use your English as a tool for genuine human connection rather than just a skill you are developing. The first is genuine curiosity. Research by Arthur Aaron at Stony Brook University found that asking increasingly personal and meaningful questions, what he calls the fast friends procedure, can create genuine intimacy between strangers in as little as 45 minutes. The questions that generate connection are not the surface questions. What do you do? Where are you from? But the deeper ones. What is something you have always wanted to do but have been afraid of? What does a good day look like for you? What is something that changed the way you see the world? Practice asking these kinds of questions in English. Not as a technique, but as a genuine expression of curiosity about the person in front of you. People can always tell the difference between genuine interest and social performance. And genuine interest is what creates the conditions for real connection. The second is deep listening. Not listening to respond, but listening to understand. Research by Graham Bodie at the University of Mississippi shows that people consistently report feeling more connected to, and more understood by, people who listen actively, who make eye contact, who ask follow-up questions, and who reflect back what they have heard. Deep listening is itself a form of connection. Practice this in your English conversations. Give the other person your full attention. Resist the urge to formulate your response while they are still speaking. Ask follow-up questions that show you genuinely heard what they said. This practice will improve both your English comprehension and your ability to build genuine connections simultaneously. Part 8. English communities and belonging. Here is something that many English learners discover only after they have developed some confidence in the language. There are entire communities, online and offline, built around English, where people from every country and background gather to learn, share, create, and connect. And these communities can be a profound antidote to loneliness. Language exchange communities connect you with native English speakers who want to learn your language. Book clubs, discussion forums, creative writing groups, and interest communities exist in English for virtually every topic imaginable. Online gaming communities, fan communities, and professional networks operate primarily in English and welcome members from around the world. Research on online community participation shows that membership in genuine online communities, groups organized around shared interests or values rather than just passive social media consumption, provides many of the psychological benefits of in-person community. A sense of belonging. The experience of being known and valued. Regular positive social interaction. And a network of relationships that can support you through difficult times. For people who feel lonely in their local environment, perhaps because their interests are unusual, because they live in a small community, because they are introverted, or because they have moved to a new place, English language online communities can provide genuine social connection that their immediate environment cannot. Your English is not just a personal skill. It is a ticket to a global community. And that global community is waiting for you to arrive. Part 9. Speaking English as an act of courage and connection. Here is a reframe that I want you to carry with you every time you speak in English from now on. When you speak English, you are not just practicing a language. You are performing an act of outreach. An act of saying, I want to understand you and be understood by you. I am willing to be imperfect in order to reach you. I believe you are worth the effort. Research by Nicholas Epley at the University of Chicago found that people consistently underestimate how much other people want to connect with them. The assumption of indifference, the belief that reaching out to talk to strangers will be unwanted or uncomfortable, is almost always wrong. People are far more receptive to genuine connection than we assume. Every English conversation you have, every comment you write in English, every question you ask in English, is an act of reaching out. An act of saying, I am here, in this world, interested in connecting with you. And that act, small as it might feel, matters. It reduces loneliness, yours and potentially the other person's, in ways that are real and lasting. This is why your English learning is not just a personal project. It is a social contribution. Every person you connect with in English is a person whose world becomes slightly less lonely because you reached out. And yours does too. Connection is always mutual. It flows in both directions. and it enriches everyone it touches. Part 10. You are never truly alone. Here is the final thought I want to leave you with, and it is one of the most important things you will hear today. You are never truly alone. Not in the deepest sense. Because at this exact moment, in virtually every country in the world, there are people who feel exactly as you feel. Who carry exactly the kind of quiet loneliness you carry. Who want exactly the kind of genuine connection you want. Who are learning English, right now, for exactly the same reasons you are. These people are not abstract. They are real. They are on the other side of English conversations waiting to happen. They are in communities waiting to be joined. They are in comment sections waiting for someone to write something honest and real that makes them feel less alone. And you have something to offer them. Not perfect English. Not expertise. Just your genuine presence. Your honest perspective. Your real curiosity about their experience. And that, research consistently shows, is exactly what people most need and most rarely receive. Final message. The world is experiencing a loneliness epidemic. That is real. And it matters. Because loneliness is not just uncomfortable. It is literally harmful to human health and well-being in ways that are as serious as smoking and obesity. But here is what is also real. The human capacity for connection has not diminished. The desire to be truly known, truly heard, and truly valued is as strong in people today as it has ever been. And the technology and language tools available to bridge the distances between people have never been greater. You are learning English. That means you are building a bridge. A bridge that reaches across language barriers, cultural differences, and geographical distances to touch other human lives. That is not a small thing. That is one of the most profoundly human things a person can do. So from today, use your English not just as a skill but as a bridge. Reach out to someone in English. Join a community in English. Ask a question in English that you genuinely want answered. Write a comment in English that is honest and real. Because somewhere on the other side of that bridge, someone is waiting. Someone who needs exactly the connection that only you, speaking your imperfect, genuine, courageous English, can provide. You are not alone. You have never been alone. And from today, your English is the proof of that. Now I want to hear from you. Write one English sentence in the comments. Tell me this. What is one way your English has already helped you feel more connected to the world? Or what is one connection you hope your English will help you make in the future? One honest sentence. Simple English. Your real answer. I read every comment carefully, and I promise you, reading your words makes me feel less alone too. If this video helped you, subscribe to Gentle Wisdom. And remember, every word you speak in English is a bridge. Build as many as you can. See you in the next video.